Hi everyone, I am Wei. After you have watched our last episode about parallel universe, you might be wondering if there are any real stories that will prove the existence of parallel universe. That's why I did some research online to find more information on that, although there are many related cases, but most of them are not from original source and only with very brief descriptions. So we still don't know if it's true. But no worries, I will discuss them today so that you can figure out whether it is only an artistic exaggeration or it is a real historical event. In a hot afternoon in July 1954, a plane arrived at Haneda Airport in Japan, also known as Tokyo International Airport. Just like usual, many passengers started to get off the plane. Most of them were Japanese and some were Europeans. When going through customs, a male passenger who was wearing an European suit caught the attention of the airport officials. For the sake of convenience, we will call this man Mr. A. Everything looks normal when Mr. A was going through customs. But the moment he handed over his passport, things became especially strange. There were indeed entry and exit stamps of other countries on his passport, including Japan. The strange thing was that his passport stated that he came from a country that did not exist. Taured. Subsequently, Mr. A was taken to a small room and he was requested to provide more details about his country. From his pocket, he then took out currency from the country Taured. The currency and his passport appeared to be absolutely legitimate. Since there were no solution to his case, the customs officials showed him a world map and asked him to point out the location of the country. Taured, full of confidence, he gave a sly smile. Oh, I mean, a happy smile. But when he tried to find his country on the map, he immediately became confused. He pointed at the border between France and Spain, and said that his country, Taured, had existed for 1,000 years. He also claimed that this was his third visit this year to Japan. He had been flying to various countries in the past 5 years, but this situation had never happened before. The airport officials then called the company he claimed to work for and the hotel he had reserved earlier. As expected, nobody knew who he was. Since he couldn't be arrested, the officials then arranged a room for him at the airport hotel until further investigation. 2 guards were set to guard the room, so that he could not leave the room without permission. Until that evening, they found out that Mr. A had vanished, even his personal belongings were gone. You might wonder, is it possible for him to climb the window and escape? That was a tall building. I know that Spider-Man 3 is about to be released. But he is not Spider-Man for sure. He is only Mr. A. So, if this incident is real, it's reasonable to use the concept of parallel universe to explain everything. As mentioned just now, the country Taured had existed thousands of years ago. Which meant that thousands of years ago, there was a difference in a decision made that led to another parallel world, in which the country Taured existed. And under unknown circumstances, Mr. A somehow traveled from that parallel world to our current world in which the country Taured didn't exist. And who knew how he managed to travel back from the hotel room to his own world, or maybe to other parallel worlds. As for how did he travel through time and space, our current technology is still unable to explain it. But in Mr. A's case, I personally think that Mr. A may have traveled to our world through his dream. There is still no solid explanation from the scientific point of view on the strange things that happen in our dreams while sleeping. As dream is a complicated topic, I won't be discussing much here. Okay. If it's like what I said, Mr. A traveled to our world in his dream, then he might really be on a plane to Japan at that time. While on his flight, he took a nap and had a dream. When he woke up, he had already traveled to our current world without realizing it. He was later being questioned by the customs and was locked in a room at the airport hotel. Since he couldn't leave the room and he had nothing to do, so he took a nap. By the time he woke up, he had returned to his own world. So this incident may only be just a dream to Mr. A. It will bring the world back to its original balance. Thus, with Mr. A's traveling between both worlds, it will not disrupt or interfere with our current world. Speaking of time traveling and non-interference between each other, let's talk about the paradox that is related to parallel universe. Grandfather's paradox. Grandfather's paradox is a paradox of time travel. It is also a common theme in science fiction stories. Suppose we now have the ability to time travel, we can go back to the past or to the future. If there is such a person in such a situation who hates his existence so much that he wants to kill his own grandfather so that he will not to be born. In this case, let's call this person Y. Y travels back to the past and kills his grandfather even before his own father was born. But this action creates contradictions. Y has killed his grandfather. Since his grandfather is dead, his father will not be born. When there is no father, Y will not be born too. If there is no Y, who is the one that kills his grandfather? In other words, since Y is born, it indicates that his grandfather is absolutely not dead. But Y can indeed go back to the past and kill his grandfather. But only if his grandfather is still alive, Y will be born. If his grandfather is not dead, Y will be born. So that he can go back to the past to kill his grandfather. If his grandfather is dead, Y will not be born. If there is no Y, then his grandfather will not be killed by Y, thus, Y will be born. But then he wants to kill his grandfather again. Isn't that a contradiction? At this point, the idea of parallel universe is able to explain this matter. Y is able to go back to the past and kill his grandfather. However, Y does not go back to the past of his own world, but the past of another parallel world instead. Y has killed his grandfather in another world. When he returns to his original world, why do my father and I still exist? Because the grandfather of another world is dead. Not the original world that Y comes from, so it won't affect his existence. To kill his grandfather or not in another parallel world, actually, this incident will not happen. I've mentioned just now that there is a law whereby interferences among parallel worlds are not allowed. So things that cause any direct interference will not happen at all. The law that does not let this happen is called the law of causality. It can be understood this way: when there is grandfather, there is father; when there is father, there is son. When there is a cause, there will be consequences. This is the law of causality. The probability of a historical event that violates the law of causality is 0. In other words, if Y has the idea of wanting to kill his grandfather, then Y will never be born, because he violates the law of causality. Which means that human beings can't change history. Many science fiction movies with time-traveling themes also have the same concept. For example, the movie Time Machine in 2002. Popular Japanese visual novel video game Steins Gate. Even if the protagonists want to go back to the past to save their deceased companions, the ones that are saved will be the ones from the parallel universe. There is no way anyone can change history. Of course, while some people support the idea of parallel universe, some deny the existence of it. I'm not forcing anyone to believe anything. If you don't believe it, it's okay. I'm just sharing what I know about the world. So, do you support the idea of parallel universe? Or are you against it? Leave a comment below and let me know. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Also, please give me a like and share this video with your family and friends. Thank you, and see you in the next video.